On today's show, where is the level of concern after the Ottawa Senators go winless over the weekend?
And music to Sens fans' ears, November is over.
This is Brady Tkachuk, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators. I'm Ross Levitan alongside Brandon Pillar, and today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. So if you want to be in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your live bets all season long. Today is Monday, December 1st, and Pilsy, you mentioned November's over. That is music to Sens fans' ears. However, it was a better November than they've had in the last 5.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a strange November for us Senators fans. Usually after Halloween is when the real scary stuff starts. But overall, if we don't just look at the last 2 games here, this has been a good month, especially when you consider no Brady Tkachuk for the majority of it. Going on the road out to California was successful. It's tough for us to try to sell that it was a good or even decent November after getting pumped 6-1 by the Dallas Stars yesterday and not being able to beat a 30th place team.
Yeah, and Thomas Chabot missed 7 of the 13 games this month. Brady played 2 of the 13 games. So those are key contributors, of course. But just remember what you saw this weekend, blowing a third period lead against the St. Louis Blues and then getting waxed against the Dallas Stars. That's what every game in November used to look like. So take the little wins where you can get them. For example, Wednesday, not playing a great last 45 minutes if you include overtime against Vegas, but still finding a way to leave there with 2 points. And ultimately, the Senators finished November with a 6-4-3 record. That's a .577 points percentage. They got 15 of a possible 26, and it is by far their best November points percentage in the last 5 years since COVID. Last season, it was a .393 points percentage, .444 the year before, and the other two, we don't even have to dive into just how bad the team was back then, but I'll take you back 4 years ago because it is 4 years ago today that we started the postcast after the Senators went 1-10-1 in the month of November 2021. But Pilsy, those are days long gone. Let's focus on the here and now, and that game against the Dallas Stars certainly gives me pause. There's a lot of factors at play. One of them being the Dallas Stars are a complete wagon, points in 17 of their last 19 games. Senators, 6th straight game on the road, but it's the trends that are bothering me. It's the waking up thinking, man, third periods, like you're supposed to build throughout a game. You want to start great, of course, but then you want to build and be at your best when things get tight in the third period. And that just hasn't been the case for the Senators of late.
Yeah, and I mean, I look at it as nearing the end of a very long road trip. Sure, it started out great and you're feeling good about it, but when you get all those air miles and the long travel, it does add up, especially when you're going from far distances. Like doing Vegas, St. Louis, Dallas, like those aren't exactly next door neighbors, so you're traveling a lot.
I didn't realize how east St. Louis is.
It's crazy how east it is. Like it's
even Dallas is further east than I thought, but we don't have to get into U.S. geography here.
Yeah, that's. Do you want to do geography and math? 2 of our top topics here on Locked On Senators podcast.
Well, you don't need to be a math guy to figure out that going from Anaheim to San Jose back to L.A. is a complete waste of time. A complete waste of time. And then on Brady Tkachuk's podcast, they were talking apparently the airspace over San Jose, and I don't know if it's the fog, the ocean. That's a whole other can of worms versus math and geography. But apparently it shuts down, so they don't get to land at San Jose's airport that's right in the city. They have to land like a 40-minute drive away and then drive in. So it's just a bunch of behind-the-scenes stuff that ends up wearing on you when you're going on a 7-game trip. But my question to you, Pilsy, is the trip technically over now because you're so close to home? It feels different, or is this still a part of the grind of the trip?
No, I in my mind, the Western road trip is over. Now, we did say on the postcast we're considering Montreal a Western team to add on to this road trip, although they are east of Ottawa, just for you counting at home.
The last conference championship that the Montreal Canadiens won was the Clarence Campbell Bowl, which goes to the Western Conference champion every year.
Yeah, so fair. But I can't believe we got into San Jose airspace talk there. Where was I? Yeah, the fact that it's a long road trip is tough, and I didn't have any expectations up against the Dallas Stars. Now, not saying it was a scheduled loss and you can be okay with getting smacked 6-1, but that's really a game of little consequence to me. They're a great team. You're on the road, end of a long Western road trip, whatever. But the trends that you talked about are concerning. This is the first time all season. Wait, for the forwards too? Yeah. Was it? Yeah, because Batherson missed start. Yes. This is the first time all season the Ottawa Senators have been fully healthy on their forward group. And it didn't look like that was a positive thing. Like the way that this group looked without Brady and Ridley Gregg was very different and much better than how they looked once Brady and then Ridley Gregg were inserted into the lineup. Now, maybe it takes time to adjust. That's fair, but I really thought bringing in some fresh legs, especially Brady, like he had a thumb injury. So he said himself, he's been working hard to get his skating up, to keep his conditioning good, because there's no reason why he couldn't be skating a bunch of the time, especially near the back half of his recovery there. And then you get Ridley Gregg in there, a young guy that hasn't played in a while, and you hope that he can kind of boost things up. I know he's only playing a fourth line role, but clearly those did not help the Ottawa Senators. And the last two games are the worst we've seen of Tim Stützle this entire season, which is crazy because before that, every single postcast, one of us on the show was having Tim Stützle as a Sens Central standout. He has been carrying this team on his back and playing amazing until the return of Brady Tkachuk.
And it's not like they've been playing the same line for more than a minute and a half. So it's not like you can say, well, hey, he's trying to defer. He's not shooting the puck because Brady's going to take up a lot of that space in the offensive zone. It's just been two stinkers in a row. And it all started with that embellishment penalty that he got early in the game in St. Louis. Felt like it threw him off, and then he got called for one after. Yeah, -6 weekend for Tim Stützle. I would expect him to be at his best against Montreal. I think that might be the worst 2-game stretch from Timmy that we've seen since probably he was a teenager. Like,
yeah,
he's been
honestly
that good for the Ottawa Senators, especially this season, and it just has not looked good. But I want to dig into what you mentioned there about the whole forward group being available to them now. The decision was Hayden Hodgson comes out of lineup. Of course, Stephen Halliday back to Belleville. That happened on Friday. He had a couple points this weekend. We'll touch on prospect roundup later on in the show. But when you look at how Travis Green put these lines together, do you think this was just, hey, it's the first time Ridley's the guy coming in, he gets the fourth line center role? Or do you think this is a sign of what Travis Green said after the Vegas game, that we need to use our fourth line more, and this was his way of spreading the lineup in a way that made him comfortable doing that?
Yeah, I didn't love that decision, although, Ross, we have talked about getting a line of Perron, Gregg, and Cousins together as just a disturbing line. All three of those guys have a knack for getting under players' skin and can be very annoying to play against. So I thought that was going to be a little bit more fun. They didn't really cause the chaos I was hoping they would. But
a couple scrums.
Yeah, I mean, that was the St. Louis game, especially. I know Gregg wasn't there and that wasn't the line, but the St. Louis game was very chippy. And then it got a little chippy in Dallas too. Dylan Cousins and Rupe Hintz getting into it along the boards. But I didn't love how this one shook out, Ross. I would have preferred to keep Perron on that top line with Stützle and Batherson. Like you said, that Stützle and Batherson have been so good all year. Why change who's playing on the wing with them? Like, if you were going to, you would put Brady there, and we saw Brady there for a minute and a half, and they got scored on. So that wasn't great. So I don't understand taking Perron off that line, and I don't want Lars Eller playing on the top line or even the top six, because he's just been so good in his fourth line role. Why move him from there? I would have liked to have Greg play left wing on the fourth line and keep Eller in the middle. Like, Ridley Gregg's just coming back, so I get the idea of, hey, let's ease him in a fourth line role. But he's been playing center for almost the entirety of the season so far when he wing, for the entirety of the season when he was healthy. So why switch his position when he's coming back? I feel like that makes things harder on him, even if it's a fourth line role. And like I mentioned, Eller had been so good as a fourth line center. So I didn't understand the decision to put the lines like this, to be honest.
In a way, I agree that Perron should have been the guy staying in the top 6, and say what you want about his performance overall. I'd say been decent, solid defensively. He hasn't had enough of the points, although he did score in the St. Louis game. But that said, it just boggled my mind, the fact that Lars Eller stayed in the top 6 here. You could have gone, I would have preferred, and this might even be wild, but I don't think it's as crazy as keeping Eller in the top 6. I would have rather broken up the Pinto line. That's how much I don't want Lars Eller in the top 6. But that's how much I don't want Eller in the top 6. And I'm a
Ross,
guy.
I talked about it. Travis Green brought out the stone tablet and chiseled in that line in the lineup. You can't change that.
No, that's fine. But then you can't have Lars Eller in the top 6. There's other ways to do it. We've seen Nick Cousins get shifts with.
I would have even been okay with that. Yeah, Cousins being the guy up there on that top line. It was just weird.
I mean, this lineup, though, does kind of, the way it's set up right now, make you look at and say, this team, if they're going out big fish hunting, which some have rumored in the insider world, they need a top 6 left winger, and the rest of this looks fantastic. And look, Eller's been solid, but if Eller's your 13th forward and this is how it's set up, or you put Eller at wing and Nick Cousins your extra, this is a very good lineup, in my opinion. So I'm excited to see what they can do with more reps together. You know that I do like Ridley Gregg at center. I think that his skill set does sit well in the middle of the ice. So for him to be your fourth line center, I don't mind that decision. But then you've got to find room, because Eller can play wing, but let's see him play wing in the bottom 6. That's perfectly reasonable to assume. The D-core, though, is really my cause for concern. Sanderson's been elite. And I know the numbers that Sanderson and Zub had as a pair, they got caved in shots-wise, expected goals-wise against St. Louis. I still stand by that was one of Jake Sanderson's best games defensively that I've ever seen. The way he was stopping rushes, the way he was being able to transition defense to offense. I enjoyed watching him play despite what the numbers may indicate. But when you lose Thomas Chabot, and now you've lost him again, he came back for that brief try and looked like he re-aggravated it. The team's been pretty mum on what that injury is, but the D-core can't fold the way they have. Like Clevin Spence, that pair hasn't been that great the last couple of games. Matt and Paolo's probably been the bright spot because he's had moments in his game that have been really good, but it's just something to me on that back end is a little stinky right now.
Well, I mean, it's the absence of a top 4 defenseman in Thomas Chabot. I think it's clear.
How many teams are missing a top 4 defenseman? Got to be able to withstand that.
Yeah, but the thing is, Tyler Clevin is playing outside of his role here. And that's no diss to Tyler Clevin, but he is a good third pair defenseman. He's just not ready to be in the top 4. And to have a guy like Jordan Spence with him, who is solid, but like not exactly a seasoned vet, doesn't exactly help his case either. And then you look at the way Nick Jensen has been playing this year, just not good enough. And you got 2 righties on that bottom pair. So I think this really shines a light on how important Thomas Chabot is to this overall roster, because that D-core does not look the same. When he's there, it all shakes out nicely, but without him, you're seeing the effects of this team just isn't able to perform the way that they want to.
And it shines a magnifying glass on it too when you're on the road. And for example, one of the Dallas Stars' top line goals came against Ottawa's fourth line. You don't get the last change. And when you're going into their buildings, they're able to match up their top line against your bottom pair on the back end. And that's cost the Ottawa Senators in multiple instances during this 6, soon to be 7 game road trip, in which the Sens are 3-3-0. Which means a rivalry game will decide how the Senators feel coming back home for 3 at the Canadian Tire Center after tomorrow's game in Montreal. So we'll preview our preview of Sens Habs, because it's a big, big game coming up And then we'll wrap up with a look at how Sens prospects fared all across the weekend. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Drip Drop. When I'm hydrated, everything just works better. My focus, my energy, my mood, even my skin looks better. That's why I've been using Drip Drop. It's a doctor-developed hydration that keeps me running at full power no matter what my day looks like. It's not just your average sports drink, guys. It delivers 3 times the electrolytes with half the sugar of leading brands, using a science-backed formula trusted by medical professionals, firefighters, and over 90% of top colleges and pro teams. I like using Drip Drop as a daily part of my routine. I'll mix a packet in the morning before I go to the gym or during that midday slump. And the key to hydration is it's got to taste good, and it tastes amazing. My go-to flavor, though, strawberry lemonade. Love it. It's my secret weapon for staying sharp and energized through long days. Right now, Drip Drop is offering our podcast listeners 20% off your first order. Go to dripdrop.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL. That's dripdrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONNHL for 20% off. Stock up now and keep your body and mind performing at their best with Drip Drop.
Today's episode is also brought to you by the GLEBE Central Pub. If you're looking for a place that lives and breathes hockey, GLEBE Central Pub's the spot for you. Right in the heart of the Glebe, it's just steps from Lansdowne. You can head there for a good time and a long time. They got something going on every night of the week. Monday, it's wing night today, so go and get yourself some great deals on chicken wings. They've also got live music every Saturday night with no cover ever. And hey, look, tomorrow, home game for PWHL Ottawa. So why not have a pre-gamer or two at the GCP? It's just walking distance from Lansdowne. They've also got the Sens Shuttle for just $18 round trip. You can get to the CTC. Yes, it leaves an hour and 15 minutes before the game, and it will bring you right back to the pub afterwards. Leave the keys at home and let the good times roll. Sue will get you to and from the game. It is such a great initiative, and we love taking the Glebe Central Pub shuttle. Let them know that Locked On Senator sent you, and make Glebe Central Pub your home base because, as you know, the vibes are free at the GCP. All right, Billsy, that was a brain dump after the weekend. Maybe some would notice that we did not cover in depth the Sens 6-1 loss to the Dallas Stars. If you are someone that wants to dig into the bad, yeah, you can go check out last night's postcast, because that to me is a leave it on Sunday type game. And one thing I learned here, and Billsy, this is good foreshadowing for the rest of the season. Senators do a lot better on weekends when they play Saturday, Sunday instead of Friday, Sunday. But they're not going to have to worry about Fridays the rest of the year.
Yeah, I got good news for you, Ross. That was the last, if not only, Friday game of the entire season.
Yes, they had not played on Friday. Correct.
That's crazy. But yeah, thank God that's done with, because that did not go well.
And I also want to say, like, we talked about the travel. We talked about the airspace, as one does. But I also think there's something to be said for time zones, and on top of time zones, different times within them, each game on this trip. Like, they did get the 2 10 o'clock games, but not together. Or sorry, was it together? No, the LA game started at 8 o'clock or at 9 Eastern time. So you look at just how this trip was, just discombobulating would be how I describe it. So the fact that Ottawa was able to leave with a 500 record, you always hear players say, like, maybe they don't always say it publicly because you want to win every game, yada, yada, yada. But if you go 500 on long road trips, you're setting yourself up for home cooking. And that just puts pressure on yourself. Yeah. Every time you lose, the pressure mounts to win more at home later on in the season. But I do think that they have set themselves up here. It's just unfortunate that the last two were as ugly as they were, because it leaves that bad taste in your mouth going into Tuesday's game, where there's going to be a bad taste in everybody's mouth. The two best teams in the Western Conference right now are Dallas, who crushed Ottawa 6-1, and Colorado, who destroyed Montreal 7-2. And the Habs are coming home from a Western road trip, and the Sens are meeting them there after a Western road trip. So I have no idea what to expect in the first 10 minutes. I just know that both teams already hate each other, and now they're pissed off at themselves with the way they've been playing on top of this. So to me, this is going to make for a combustible game tomorrow night.
Yeah, combustible for sure. Because
Word of the day?
Yeah, no, I like it. They use discombobulate and combustible in back-to-back sentences there, Ross. Great vocabulary.
Combustible, able to catch fire and burn easily.
Yeah, this could be either like you're catching fire in a good way, like you're getting hot, or like your hair's on fire in a bad way. The fire will happen either way.
Let's keep the fire on the ice, though, Montreal, not in the streets.
Yeah. That does look sweet, the fire thing that they do pregame when they're done 25 minutes of shenanigans before puck drop. But this is so important, Ross, because right now Montreal sits third in the Atlantic Division with 29 points, and the Ottawa Senators are on the outside looking up in the wildcard race with 28. So if the Sens win this one, they can leapfrog the Montreal Canadiens with 30 points. But if they lose, that gives Montreal a 3-point lead, and it keeps the Sens down there, and it's still tight in the Atlantic Division. Make no mistake. Like, the Sens are only 4 points ahead of the Sabres and dead last. Like, this is...
They are third in points percentage, though, because the Bruins have played 2 extra games than Ottawa.
Yeah.
But
there you
go. We're still looking at division. That's all I'm saying. We're still looking at division. We're not moving the wild card just yet.
Yeah, but to do that, Montreal's the one standing in your way. And
Correct.
You have to make the most of this. You can't keep losing to the Montreal Canadiens. Let's get back to the days where they were 9 straight victories up against them. That'd be good.
Sens are 1-0-1 in their last 2 against Montreal, right? And the one they won last year was late in the season. Felt like a similar situation. I think Ottawa was 3 points up on Montreal at that point. Huge win at home, but the Bell Center in particular the last 2 seasons has not been kind for the Sens. So this to me is going to be one that is a must-watch game, not only if you're a Sens or a Habs fan, but if you're a hockey fan, because these are 2 teams that want to be great. They both got young cores. Which one is going to take this next step? And both teams are going to be wanting a regulation win on Tuesday night.
Yeah, big time. Now, if it goes past regulation, Ross, I think we want to find a way to get this to shootout. Montreal has a knack for winning overtime games this year, but shootout, they're 0-2. The Ottawa Senators are 3-0. We talked about shootout the other day. Lena Solmark and Levi Mariline, sparkling records. But one other thing that these 2 teams have in common is their goaltending has not been good. Both tandems, honestly, of goalies are not living up to the expectation that the team has for them. So we'll see which goalies they both decide to go with. I assume it's going to be Ullmark, Montembeault, but we don't know. But those guys, they want something to prove, especially after, was it Montembeault in net for that Colorado game?
I believe it was Dobish. I've got it up right here.
Okay.
It was
hot
Dobish for all 7 goals.
Yeah.
7 on 36 for Dobish. So you'd imagine it's Montembeault. He's played well against Ottawa. And Linus Ullmark, after a -3 goals saved above expected, he's back as the statistically worst goalie in the National Hockey League in terms of that stat. And it's not even close. It's more than 2 than the second worst goalie in the league, which is Caden Primo, who spectacularly has gotten a -6.8 in 3 games. Dustin Wolf would be second if you're looking at more of a sample size there. But man, this one is going to be circled 3 times on the calendar. Senators and the Canadiens. We'll have a full game day preview on tomorrow's Locked On Senators, but we cannot stress enough how critical it is to get home from this trip with a 4-3-0 record. This was a big weekend for Sens prospects. Javon Moore in particular was unbelievable. And plus the Belleville Sens, they were facing the best team in the Eastern Conference at home, a team they don't play a whole lot, the Providence Bruins. How'd it go and how did the prospects look within that game? We'll discuss next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or you want to ride that hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. Keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. And when there's big rivalry games, you can put some skin on the game and get in on the action. Ottawa, Montreal coming up tomorrow. Check out FanDuel for the updated odds tomorrow. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
All right, Pilsy. So the Ottawa Senators in Montreal. Some R&R today, I'd imagine. Not sure yet if they are skating, but they will be preparing for tomorrow night against the Montreal Canadiens. It looks like, according to the schedule, that today is a travel day. So stayed overnight in Dallas, fly to Montreal today. I actually like that move with all the travel they've been doing. Don't do the midnight, get into Montreal at 5 o'clock in the morning and then go from there. No, travel today. Get ready for the game tomorrow. So we won't have too many updates on social media today at Sens Central, but tomorrow will be awesome. Tonight in the National Hockey League, there is a number of games, 5 to be exact. The New Jersey Devils hosting the Columbus Blue Jackets, a Battle of Pennsylvania between Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. The Jets are in Buffalo to take on the Sabres. That's the prime Monday night hockey game. Out west, Anaheim against St. Louis, and the Sharks are hosting the Mammoth. Pilsy, very good news for a hashtag Sens Abroad. Really excited to see Josh Norris will make his return to the Sabres lineup tonight.
Yeah, that is nice to see. Although we hope the Jets get the win there. Reminder, the Buffalo Sabres second round pick is the Ottawa Senators' highest value draft pick for this year. So let's hope for a 33rd overall. But good to see Josh Norris back. And then there's no other really West versus East matchups here. So we are all Winnipeg Jets tonight.
Yes, we are all Jets, and we are all cheering for regulation in those two other early games, specifically Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, two teams that have both overperformed to start the season, both with above 500 records and right in the mix. Pilsy, tough weekend for the Belleville Senators. They fall twice, tennis scores, 6-4, 6-3, other way around. I was going from most recent to furthest away game, but that Providence team, they're wagging. They've only got 3 regulation losses all season, but if you're Belleville, man, I know that there's a lot up and down, but that's typical in the American Hockey League. Got to find a way to win games, and it's been a streaky season for Belleville, right? They had those multiple wins in a row. I thought that they were back on the right track. They looked phenomenal in the Tuesday morning game in Winnipeg where they won 5-2, but they've got 1 win in their last 5 games, so they've got to clean that up here in a hurry.
Yeah, which is unfortunate because they get Stephen Halliday back, a big part of that team's offense, the disher, and he had his guy, 3 assists on the weekend, so you can't really blame him. My guy, Ross, Xavier Bourgault, also playing well. He had 3 points, including scoring in both the games and having assists. And of course, Arthur Kaliev keeps it going. He also scored in both games and I believe tacked on an assist during the weekend as well. And then Carter Yakimchuk had a 2-assist game in one of them. So the top dogs were producing there. Just defensively, they weren't able to stop the Providence Bruins enough to get any points out of this one. But let's not be too doom and gloom here, Ross, because the Belleville Senators still sit in a playoff spot in the North Division, 4th with 22 points. But they've got a big week coming up ahead with the Toronto Marlies on Wednesday, and then both games at home, CAA Arena. People in the Bay of Quinte, get out, get to the CAA Arena, up against the Laval Rocket Friday and Saturday. So this week could be a game changer as far as their spot in the standings go.
Yeah, and it was a game on Saturday, or no, Sunday game, where they came back and made it interesting right until the end. It was an empty netter with 1 second left that made it a 2-goal defeat. But Belleville had scored 3 straight goals to bring it to within one. Just could not get it over the finish line. Ole Lexell with his 2nd goal in his 3rd game back from injury and from being up with Ottawa. Fun fact, he played in both home openers. So he got announced for both home openers. Footy was telling me that, got a good laugh there. But yeah, overall, not a great weekend for Belleville when it comes down to it. If you're looking at positive signs, you mentioned Carter Yakimchuk with the 2 assists. He's up to 16 points in 22 games. Dash 13, probably want to clean that up a little bit. We know plus minus isn't everything, but the stats are limited. And when I saw him in Manitoba last week, I stand by it because I'm starting to see, I don't know if it's maybe with how Ottawa's defense is playing right now. Hey, it'd be nice to have a new fresh face. It'd be exciting. Do not call up Carter Yakimchuk right now. His best development path is to play in the American Hockey League, play 25 minutes, which he's doing. He's shooting the puck a lot. Like, that's a great sign to me that his confidence isn't wavering at all. He knows what kind of player he is, and to be successful, he needs to take those risks, but he will learn to manage them over the course of time. Yakimchuk's 3rd on the Belleville Sens in shots on goal with 44, but nowhere near Arthur Kaliev, who, I mean, still a prospect, right? I know he's 24 years old now, but still a guy who could come up and does have a point in the NHL this year. I believe he played 2 games, if I'm not mistaken. He leads the entire American Hockey League in shots on goal and in power play goals with 8. And in terms of overall points, he's 4th. We kind of threw it out at the end of the show last night in the postcast, but like, would he be a guy you consider calling up again to get that look, whether it's on the second power play unit or just a shooter's mentality, because you're coming off a game where you had 16 shots on goal, Pilsy, and it feels like this would be a guy that could help get pucks on net.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's his calling card. For a lot of his time in the NHL, he had been a bottom 6 player that's just playing second power play unit, and you hope to squeeze some points out of him that way. But with the Sens forward core fully healthy now, I'd like to give this group of guys a couple games to try to figure it out before calling someone up, because likely it would be Nick Cousins who ends up sitting out. And not that he's been a game breaker, but I do think I'd like to give him some more time on that new look 4th line, whether it's Ridley Gregg, David Perron, Lars Eller, who's going to be on there. We'll see. But I wouldn't be doing that just yet, in my opinion. But it's certainly something to consider, and it's got to be a bit of an ace up their sleeve if they want to try it out if the offense doesn't come soon.
And we know that Ottawa's MO is hard forechecking, get in there fast, and that's not Arthur Kaliev's game.
No, it's not. So, like, the idea of him dominating in the AHL and scoring all these power play goals is great when you're a top line, top power play guy in the American Hockey League, the minor leagues. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to translate to the NHL game. And like you mentioned, he doesn't play the style of 4th line player that Travis Green is looking for.
No, he's hilarious though. Honestly, if you want a comparable for Kaliev, and I said this to Footy, and he's like, yeah, man, I see that. Like, he looks like Igor Sokolov out there, like a little hunched over, not moving a whole lot. But when the puck's on his stick at that level, it's off of it in the back of the net.
Yeah, but I mean, Sokolov had a couple more things to his game and more pace than Kaliev. But
Kaliev's stick doesn't touch the ice on the power play until he's taking a one-timer. He is just ready, like it's in the rafters. He's waiting for it. He's ready, and I mean, it's been great to see that he's been able to put the puck in the net 13 times in 20 games down there. Speaking of putting the puck in the net, let's look at the NCAA Sens, of which there are many, but 4 didn't play this weekend. Wisconsin had the weekend off after back-to-back amazing weekends where they just came off sweeping the then number 1 team in the country, Michigan State. They'll be back in action against Notre Dame this upcoming weekend. I got a good feeling that Senators VP of Hockey Ops, Dave Poulin, will be watching those ones. He's a Notre Dame alumni. But hey, if you go to Minnesota, sticking in the Big Ten, wow, Javon Moore looks like he's starting to figure out college hockey. Scored the overtime winner against Denver. Great team. Had an assist in that game as well. And he's really starting to put up some points that would allow you to understand why some scouts thought that was a huge steal in the 4th round in 2024.
Yeah, and that wasn't just some fluky OT winner, Ross. He carried the puck from his own end, deked out a defender in the neutral zone, brought it into the offensive zone, and ripped one past the goalie there, like an emphatic goal. So we love to see that from Chabot more.
And you've been tracking Russian mythical creature, Dmitry Asayev.
Yeah, man, like this guy. I wish I could see more highlights or watch him. I don't know how you can watch.
It's kind of cooler if you don't.
Yeah. I know DAZN did have KHL on their
How about the
package
MHL?
for a while. But MHL and VHL, I'm not sure. But if you were able to, you'd get quite a show because Asayev in the MHL has 18 points in 13 games, including 10 goals. VHL, obviously, a bit more of a struggle, only 3 points in 14 games. And then the KHL, I mean, it's just laughable when you look at the stats here. Most of the time in the KHL is getting zeros all across the board in time on ice. Although he did have one game where he played a full 7 minutes of ice time. Crazy stuff. But yeah, Asayev's been great. And then if we're sticking in Russia, Ross, Andrei Trofimov has also been very good, again, in the MHL. But 6-1 record down there in 10 games. So that's pretty solid.
Yeah, just quickly on Asayev, because he did have a stint in the VHL, which is the equivalent to the American Hockey League. So it's pro, but then you can get sent back down to junior. And since going back down to junior in 7 games there, he's up to 10 points in those. So he's definitely got to watch. Over 20 minutes of ice time. Crazy that we can get time on ice stats for the Russian junior leagues, but not the American Hockey League. That to me is just outrageous. But anyways, neither here nor there. And then we've got the son of Thomas Vanek, Blake, 3rd round pick of the Senators here. And he's also starting to figure it out in his league, which is the Western Hockey League. He's on a not so good team, the Wenatchee
One of
Wild.
the worst.
Yeah, I was just trying to be nice there. The Wenatchee Wild have 8 wins in 22 games this season, but Blake Vanek, he's now producing points. Had 2 assists in a 6-1 win on Saturday. He's got 10 points in his last 10 games, and that's after only having 3 assists in his first 12 in the Western Hockey League. So nice to see that. They've all came in bunches. So 10 points in his last 10 games, but he has no points in 5 of them. So he's got 4 multi-point games, including a 3-point effort. So kind of up and down, but he's a long-term project for this organization, and it's good to see him gain some confidence in what must be almost as tough as a situation as it is right now in the Quebec League for Luca Beckman, where he's doing everything he can. He's got a .905 save percentage on a team where he has 4 wins in 23 games.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure his team, the Drakkar, are the worst team in Canada as far as juniors go. I know they're worse than any Western team. I didn't check the OHL, but tough bounce for him. Although I've mentioned it, Ross, and I'll stick with it. I'll try to put a positive spin on this. If you're a developing goalie, it's not the worst thing to be on a terrible team because you're going to see shots and you're going to have to figure things out on your own. Making the first save often isn't enough. Sometimes even the second save isn't enough. You got to find ways to make 3 saves in a row. You cannot rely on your defense. You can't rely on your team producing offense to get you leads. Like, you got to be the guy that's shutting the door. So I think it is good, at least, that he's getting this experience. But I would like to see him traded to at least a team in the playoff hunt as the season goes on and give him a chance to play in more meaningful games.
Baie-Comeau is not having a good year, to say the least. But one thing I like to do when a goalie's playing on a bad team is I say, okay, I know you're the starter. You're playing the most games, but that means that you're probably spot starting your backup in maybe a little bit of easier circumstances within it. He's got a .905 save percentage. Justin Giguère, no disrespect. Also, I don't think any relation to Jean-Sébastien Giguère, but he is at a .816 save percentage in 6 games. So you're looking at Luca Beckman playing about as well as you can for a guy with 4 wins in 23 games. So I'm excited to see more of him. Unfortunately, this start for his team will most likely take him out of even being a 3rd goalie option for Team Canada at the World Juniors. But the good news is he still has eligibility to play at the 2027 World Juniors. And I would hope that his goal would be to be not only on that team, but potentially be the starter once this current age group of Team Canada goalies moves on to pro hockey. So that's our prospect update. And for more, you can go check out our good friend at Sens Prospects on Twitter. Does a fantastic job of finding clips and videos of all Sens prospects. And he was also our first ever guest on the Locked On Senators podcast. So longtime great friend of the show. And we appreciate all the work that Henry does over there. Pills, any final thoughts on today's show?
Final thoughts for me is tomorrow's the big one. Haven't officially announced it yet, Ross, but I think tomorrow's show we're going to announce a must-win game.
No, we're not getting ahead of ourselves, though. It's a travel day today. We got lots of time to ponder.
That's why I said I think on tomorrow's show we're going to do it. I'm leaning towards it. It's a big one. The Ottawa Senators are 1-1 in our must-win games this year. Lost to Buffalo, and then we doubled down and let it ride with a must-win game against Seattle, and they won that in the shootout. So let's get possibly a positive record on must-win games. I'm so dialed in on this game. Like, I've completely forgot about Dallas. I've moved on from that. Not a big deal. But tomorrow is a big one.
Join us for a full game day preview. We'll dive into the stats and storylines ahead of the second meeting between the Ottawa Senators and Montreal Canadiens this season. The two teams will meet January 17th and March 11th, both in the nation's capital. So Ottawa's first two games of this season series against Montreal will be on the road in the Bell Center, where we have sent our boots on the ground. Jack Richardson will be there, and he'll join us in the postcast to discuss. We'll also have lots more to get into on tomorrow's show, which comes out at your usual time, just around noon here. For today, we say goodbye. Have a great rest of your day. Make sure you're following along on social media at Sens Central on Twitter. You can find the show everywhere you get podcasts, including on YouTube, where a 5-star review goes a long way to helping the show grow. For Brandon Pillar, I'm Ross Levitan, and this has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.